Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 100 Properties panel on how real estate investing opens doors to new possibilities. So I'll be your host for tonight, and we'll be chatting about how real estate opens doors, both literally in terms of purchasing houses, but also figuratively in terms of opening doors to new possibilities in life. So we'll be featuring 4 panelists who will share their experiences. And it's my intention and goal that you leave with some new insights and inspiration, whether you're already a real estate investor or it's something that you are just browsing and you're interested in. So as some reminders and expectations before we get into this, the event is being recorded. People, you have your permission to keep cameras off. I know you might be attending a lot of Zoom events anyway, and you don't want your camera on and people looking into your space. So that's totally okay. I just want to give you explicit permission for that. In terms of doing applause, for the people that do have their cameras on, we can do applause in the Zoom roll with jazz hands. Or you can use your reactions tab. There's a clap button and other cheers emojis too that you can use to show your applause. We also encourage people to write comments into the chat. That way we can make sure that this event is still interactive. And also feel free to take a photo of the event as well and tag us on social media. We are 100 Properties on Facebook and Instagram. So if you tag us in your photos saying that you're attending this event, we'll make sure to reshare those afterwards as well. So I'd love to actually start with a welcome activity. So if people could go to your chat box right now and type in where you're calling from, but don't press send yet. I'll do a countdown from 5. And so then we can see like a waterfall of everyone's different responses together. So just get it ready, type into the chat where you're calling in from. And then when I say send, then we'll all send at the same time. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can press send. Wow, look, okay, there's so many people. I gotta scroll back up. Raymond, Montreal, Lethbridge. My dining room, says Carson. Carson says Lethbridge, Calgary, Lethbridge. Okay, so we got lots of Southern Alberta folks. So thank you for all joining us tonight. And so I'll do a further introduction of myself. I'm calling in from Calgary, so yay Calgarians, the other ones that are in the room. I'm a TEDx speaker. A few months ago, I had a chance to present a TEDx talk called How to Find Excuses to Connect. And afterwards, I formed a business called Excuses to Connect, where I do stuff like coaching, podcasting, and running workshops. I also recently started a second business with a business partner called Welcome Coaching Services, where we're a collective of coaches helping individuals and organizations be paired up with the right coach so that they can live their best lives. In terms of my involvement with 100 Properties, I used to be the executive assistant for Eric Chang, who started 100 Properties, and now I'm currently working as an internal coach within the organization. So for people that aren't familiar with what 100 Properties is, this was started by Eric Chang. He's currently at a conference right now, which is why he's not here, but our team is still hosting this event tonight. He's been a real estate investor for over 10 years and is one of the ways he became financially independent. So his mission is to help 100 other people become financially independent through real estate investing. So we do a lot of stuff around education, like running boot camps and partnering with people. And there will be an opportunity that I'll share more about at the end as well. He invests mainly in Southern Alberta, so Lethbridge, Cardston, Raymond, that type of area. And they're currently looking to expand into the US market as well. So over the past year, we've had lots of people get involved with 100 Properties, including people in their early 20s. And so that's quite exciting. And we're going to be featuring some of those folks in our panel today. There's more than just the traditional path of going to getting a degree, finding a job, working 9 to 5, and then working till you're 65 to retire. So hopefully that's something we can shed more light on today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our 4 panelists for tonight. So I'll start with Shay Grimson. Shay, if you want to give a wave to everyone. So Shay is the head bartender at the Tap House, our Telegraph Tap House in Lethbridge, and he's been doing that for the past 2.5 years. He's a natural connector. He loves putting smiles on people's faces, And that's led him to volunteer in lots of different positions like the Lethbridge Sledge Hockey Club and Alberta Health Services. He's also previously worked with Agility, which is an entrepreneurial program at the University of Lethbridge. And he joined 100 Properties in the fall as an applied studies student. Through this experience, his mindset has shifted to seeing how real estate investing is doable. And he also loves the Who Not How book. So I'm pretty sure he's going to bring that up later today. So people, if you want to give an applause or wave just to welcome Shay. And then thank you, Erison. So I'll move on to Erison. Erison Haynes has been working on a variety of renovation projects at his dad's property. His dad is a real estate investor, and he believes in learning and earning at the same time. So he's always wanted to get into real estate investing, but he figured that he wants to get some hands-on experience as well. So that's why he's working on these renovation projects. He's also recently returned from England on a 2-year mission. So his faith acts as a wonderful filter and helps him stay focused on the things that are important to him, which are God, family, and service to others. And he sees real estate investing as a vehicle to nurture those 3 pillars in his life. So we'll give another round of applause or emojis to welcome Erison. Okay, next I'll go to Miguel. So Miguel believes that there's 4 core components of having a good life. So those are health, wealth, love, and happiness. He's originally from Colombia, and his family immigrated to Canada to have a better quality of life. He is currently completing a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology at the University of Lethbridge, and he loves playing intramural basketball. He told me for sure I needed to include that fact about him. He's also passionate about personal development and has taught himself to be a stock and options day trader, along with learning about real estate investing. His dream is to become financially free and also change other people's lives in the way that they've changed his. So, round of applause emojis for Miguel. And then last but not least, we have Leslie Ohini-Ajay. Leslie is the co-founder of Arrow Marketing, and he's an award-winning creative director and cinematographer with over 15 years of experience bringing imaginative ideas to life. In the world of real estate investing, he's been able to go from 0 to 7 properties just over the course of a year by utilizing a real estate investing strategy called BRRRR. So we're very excited to have him as a panelist today too. Cool. So we'll get into questions now, and afterwards there'll be an opportunity for Q&A from the audience as well. So if any questions come up, just write it down, hold on to it, and there'll be an opportunity afterwards to ask about it. Okay, so I'll start with our first question, which is, how did you get introduced to real estate investing? So I'll start with Erison, and then I'll go to Miguel next. So Erison, how did you get introduced to real estate investing?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Richard?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the way that I got introduced to real estate investing was just as I was about to graduate high school in grade 12. I was thinking about, potentially going to university. I had planned to go and serve a mission for my church first. And I always thought, hey, wouldn't it be wonderful if while I was in university, I partnered with my parents, we bought a house, and then I would rent it out to other university students, and I would, get a place to live for free. And then I have this house that is paying for itself. And so that was kind of my very first idea with real estate investing. So I go to England for 2 years and have this incredible experience. And as I'm preparing to come home, the question comes up, okay, what's the next big thing? I have been serving in England for 2 years. I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And so when I came back to Alberta, where I'm living now, I was able to actually meet Eric Chang. My father told me that I should have a conversation with him, and Eric then told me that, if I wanted some work, that I could come and work on some of his properties, but that if I wanted to learn about real estate investing, that was an option too. So he invited me to read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that just opened up my mind to the possibilities that not only can I go and get an incredible education, by going to university, but I can get an education even before I get a degree, starting right here and right now. And so it all started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For the last 6 months, I've been working on a variety of different projects and learning every day. And the paycheck is pretty nice too.
Wonderful. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book that's been recommended to me as well. And I'm sure other folks in the audience might have heard of it. So if you read it, let us know in the chat as well. Wonderful. Well, go on to Miguel and then Shay and then Leslie. So Miguel, how did you get introduced to real estate investing?
Yeah, thank you. I guess it was around 5 or 6 years ago when I started to learn more about personal development, right? Personal finance and things like this. And I stumbled upon all of my mentors that I was learning from at the time. They were like, yeah, like real estate, real estate, real estate. And I was like, oh, this is weird. All of these people who are like extremely successful, they're talking about real estate, right? So that kind of like piqued my interest, right? To like trying to learn more about, okay, like what's the deal with real estate, right? And then it all makes sense with me because like, okay, like we all need a place to live, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is something that everybody needs use of, right? And if you don't really know how to, if you don't learn about it, right, you might be like, you might not be ahead, right? So through mentors, right, successful people I've talked about, they say, real estate is the ways to go. And you guys have probably heard the statistic that real estate is the one industry where it has created the most amount of like self-made millionaires, right? People that were not, part of the lucky sperm club, right? So, it's an opportunity for everybody to be successful. And yeah, it all started with education, personal development. So, and also like Harrison was saying, like I stumbled upon like Robert Kiyosaki, right, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, right, which that book is like mind changing, right? So yeah, that's how I was introduced to real estate investing.
Yeah, wonderful. And I see in the chat as well, Christian and Carissa have also read this book, so that's awesome. Shay, on to you.
Yeah, so I've been in university for many years, and I was studying in psychology and philosophy. And I was constantly throughout my degree, slowly whittling my interest in that field. And I just kind of was always looking for something else that was interesting to me. And like you introduced me as, I'm really a fan of and talented in connecting and talking to people. So it's kind of what I always wanted to focus my whole life around after a certain point. I started to focus like, hey, if I'm really good at this and this is what I truly love doing, I want to do something related to that. So I ran into different things with real estate, not directly with investing, but things like becoming a mortgage broker, where your income is in directly relation to how many people you know, right? How many mortgages can you sell to as many people as you possibly can? So real estate was always on my mind, because that was one of the jobs, and real estate always had that kind of, you have to know a lot of people, you have to connect with a lot of people, you have to use all different kinds of jobs and things to succeed in that type of market. So then last fall, I ran across through my agility contacts, they were like, hey, you really need to check out all these applied studies. And then I got attached to the real estate one, where Eric and the 100 Properties team were hosting applied study opportunities. And that's when I applied. And that's what really got me focused in that direction of real estate investing, as opposed to mortgage broker or something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think maybe you applied a day or two before the deadline. So
yeah,
good thing you got it in, because look where it's taken you now. So
literally, I just went to go hang out with my old coworkers, and then they were like, "Hey, check this out." And then the next day or two, it was they were going to expire. So
yeah, it's serendipity. Okay, Les, how did you get introduced to real estate investing?
Yeah, I mean, so there's lots of different ways to invest in real estate. And so for me, my involvement with real estate investing goes really way back to, I don't fit that early 20s that you'd mentioned earlier. So back when I was in university, we'd all rent this house. So I rented the house, and then I collected enough rent from my buddies where I actually wasn't paying anything. So I was living for free while they were renting, while they were paying for me to live there. And then that continued to another place where I rented the whole house. I lived in the basement. but I rented for the landlord upstairs and made profit off of that. And then where I would find a house that wasn't renting for really the right amount, and then I would rent it out and then capitalize on that. So rental arbitrage, right? But I didn't own any of the assets, right? So when I bought my house, I said, okay, well, I guess I'll rent out a room or something, but it turns out I really hate living with people. And so I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. I guess I should go buy my own properties and start to rent them out. And so that's what I decided to do last year after saving a bit of money, put a plan together and went out and started buying up some properties. So that's how I kind of dived into real estate investing.
Yeah, wonderful. So I'll move on to the next question, unless you can answer this as well. Because we're often, when we grow up, we're told this traditional path of, going to university, getting your degree, then getting to a 9-to-5 job, and then working till you're 65 to retire. For you, I mean, you've went down this route of creating or co-founding a marketing agency and still doing that work full time. But I'm just curious to get your thoughts on this traditional path when it comes to life that we've been told.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I know a lot of people who have had very meaningful, successful lives that they've enjoyed following this exact path, right? I went to university, I got a degree, and I have zero regrets about that. That was some of the best times of my life, right? But I think the thing for me, though, especially partly when you own a business, there is no pension that is put away for you necessarily, or a retirement plan that's built out for you. You have to do all these things, right? So real estate investing kind of forms the basis of that. The other thing that it allows for me, though, is choice, right? And this is the part where if you follow just strictly the traditional path, that may or may not be there, right? So when you have the choice to ever walk away from a job or a person or a situation because you are financially independent or you have something that you can fall back on, and you're not tethered to a single job, and feel stuck in that to me is really what I would consider a problem, more than necessarily whatever path gets you to joy, right? So if you feel tethered to one job or situation because of money, simply because of money, then that to me is a real issue. And so that's where real estate, at least for me, allows me, if I wanted to tomorrow, if I decided I no longer like marketing, I want to do something else, I can simply walk away from that, take some time, figure out what it is that I want to do, and then work on doing that, right? So that to me is the freedom part that I'm really looking out more for than anything else.
Right. Yeah. You brought up a few good points there about choice and being tethered or stuck to somewhere. Yeah. I mean, for me, I completed a music degree and now I'm doing entrepreneurship, and it's still stuff I enjoy to do. But with our next panelists, I'm gonna call up Shay and then Miguel and Arison. Shay, I know you had made the decision to drop out of your university program, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on this traditional path, because I know that's something you have lots of passionate thoughts about.
Yeah, just a few. I do like Leslie's point though at the very beginning, where it's like I don't particularly disparage the value of going through that kind of pathway if it fits for you. But I've seen throughout my degree, I've met a lot of people and made friends with a lot of people, and most of them, I'd say about like 90% of them, have either gone back to university for a different degree, dropped out or switched their degree mid-degree, or have got their degree and then not used it, went back to working at H&M or something, right? And to me, it was just like a misalignment of what they first thought they wanted to do, and then had to sit down for the 4 years or 5 years or however long it took you to get to the point where they can do something with that value. And then once they get there, they're like, oh, well, crap. So I noticed that when I was going through university, that I was encountering a lot of people that didn't make their own decisions just directly related to their degree, and also tried to do it in like a rushed kind of method. And that's what I see is the biggest problem with it was like university was not for gaining experience and getting value from all the people that were in that institution, but to just like get the piece of paper and walk away and use it to apply to 100 jobs and then hope for the one job to accept the application. So that was one of my biggest things with the traditional view. It's like, and especially as a bartender, I meet so many people, and I've met unique people who do all kinds of crazy occupations. Like, for example, one of the stories that I always bring up is a guy who came into the bar, and I was just chatting with him. It was a really slow day. There wasn't very many people there. And I asked him what he did for a living. And he told me that he takes recycled plastic and turns it into car parts, like oil, like things that you would use for oil changes and other different kinds of car parts. And he and one other company are the only two companies that do something like that. So his competition is just that one company. And he told me about this, and I'm like sitting there looking at him and listening to him tell his story. And I was like, you know, when you're going through high school and you're going through the traditional path where your parents are telling you, hey, I want you to be a lawyer. Hey, you'd be perfect as a doctor. Because I was told many times that I'd be good as a lawyer, but it was there, but I never went and tried to pursue it. But that kind of view is always pushed down on you as like, hey, these are the jobs that you can get. And there's like, you know, you can count the 10, like there's only so many. Whereas like recycling plastic and turning it into car parts, no one ever mentions that. And that might be something that you truly would find the full meaning in life from, right? And that's something that you don't directly need a degree for to be able to use. So that's my biggest problem with the traditional view, is it closes off your mind from the potential of all these like infinite number of jobs that you could possibly do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear if people want to type into the chat as well in terms of your sort of thoughts on our discussion so far, because I'm sure there's some people that would disagree or agree with components of what we shared so far. But for Miguel, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, no worries. My views on traditional 9 to 5. Well, I would say like it really depends on the person, right? Like what they want out of life, right? Because I know some people who are like, extremely happy, going 9 to 5, having that stability, right? Having that consistent income where they can plan for their expenses and things like that, right? So there's nothing wrong with it, right? Now in terms of like university, like Shay was saying, like most people at the beginning, they're confused as to like what they need to study, right? And I believe like people who are going to university, need to really, before going to university, they really need to like understand like what they like, what they enjoy doing, right? Like what are they passionate about, right? Like what's the end goal, right? Because the majority of the time, students and people, they just feel that they have to go to university, right, to create a life and to be successful, just because that's the way they were taught, right? Like their parents and parents, grandparents, stuff like that. They went to university, they went this route, and that's all they know, right? So but now, there is so many more good opportunities, right? There is so many more things that you can do, right? That doesn't require a university degree, right? And yeah, there is a quote that really struck me from one of my mentors, that it says like, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, like you will have to work until the day you die, right? So when I heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to work until I die, right? I want to enjoy my life, right? I want to create a life that is, based on the things I want to do, right? I want to be with my family, hearing new friends, help other people, right? I want to do so many things, right? But if I'm working all the time, right, like on a 9 to 5, then it's kind of like difficult to do that, right? And also, while Leslie was talking, he just reminded me of something. I'm like, oh my gosh, when you're working for somebody, right, on a 9 to 5, you don't really like own your time, right? Like that's not your time. Like your time belongs to your employer, right? Because they tell you what to do, you need to be there. So it's like, again, that concept of freedom, right? Like personally, right? That's something that I want to strive for, and that's something that I do and enjoy, just having the freedom to, to enjoy life, right? And to not feel like pressure to be here a certain time and things like that, right? And also creating something for myself, right? Because when you go to a 9 to 5, you're essentially building somebody else's dreams, right? But most people don't really think about it this way, but it's essentially true, right? You're helping them create their empire or whatever it is that they're doing, right? So I would rather have my own business, right? Focus on helping other people, right? And just grow together. So yeah, that's my view on the 9 to 5.
Yeah, and very powerful quote that you mentioned as well. And yeah, we'll round it off with Erison to get your thoughts.
Yeah. So I think if I were to go back to the time that I got back from England and I needed to kind of do some planning on what the rest of my life would look like, there was I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of university course curriculums, because that was my intention right away before I learned about real estate investing. I was like, okay, I am going to go and get an education, and I am going to go to university. And so as I was doing my research, there wasn't anything that resonated with me right away. And so I decided not to go to university right away because I didn't see where any of those paths would lead me. I wasn't passionate about any of those things. And so I think kind of the core principle that I do believe in is, in our lives, it's so important to never stop learning, but it doesn't have to be in the classroom that we have to learn. And so right now, I am trying to learn as much as I can. One of my mentors in life, he gave me a commitment that for the rest of my life, I'll always be reading a book that will be teaching me how to improve myself. And I'm going to keep that commitment. And, as I get to know myself better, maybe a little bit later down the road, I do go to university or I do some online courses. But yeah, I think what's really cool about real estate investing is whether it's in the classroom or out of the classroom, there's always that opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, never stop learning. So yeah, I see some comment or hear some common themes based on what everyone said, where there's nothing inherently wrong with that, going down that traditional path, but realizing that there's other possibilities or other choices that might give you more freedom and independence as well. And ultimately, it's finding what's right for you. I saw that Krista put in the chat that they had their parents had told them to get a BA and whatever, and so they get one, but now they're just working on home care. It's all part of the adventure and journey. So I definitely agree. So for this next question, what new possibilities became available to you through real estate investing? So I'll answer first, and then I'll pass it back to Erison. Because for me, actually, Eric just reached out to me randomly one day on Facebook. I had known him from meeting him at an event, and he just messaged me like, "Richard, do you want to learn about real estate investing?" And I'm like, "No." I'm a broke university student. This is not remotely on my radar. But he explained to me, it's like, oh, actually, I want to teach other people about how to do this. And so that there's just other possibilities to them. So I'm like, okay, now I'm interested. So I chatted with him and just opened up this possibility that I can retire earlier than 65. There's ways for me to earn residual income now, which is not the case for my parents. I mean, both my parents were immigrants. They came here, work manual labor type jobs, and just try to make ends meet. But now recognizing that I have more opportunities and privilege, that's like, I don't need to necessarily have that same path. So that's something I'm very fortunate for. But yeah, Erison, what became possible, or what new possibilities became available to you now that you've learned about real estate investing?
Yeah, there are a lot. Some of them are long-term for sure, like you mentioned, perhaps retiring earlier, Richard, and some of them are short-term as well. Like for myself, as I began to learn about real estate investing, and as Eric has been mentoring me for the last 6 months, I have kind of set some goals and some markers for myself. And within the next 10 years, I too am hoping to be in a place where I'm financially free, because then I can really dive into what's really important to me in my life, which is, serving my God, serving my family, and serving my fellow men, which gets me really excited. And so it's a great motivator there. And then even short term right now, I noticed a lot of kids my age are struggling to find a job. But because I have been learning about real estate and trying to meet like-minded people, I've been employed for the last 6 months, and I could go to Cardston and I could do work there. I could go to Medicine Hat and do work there. I'm sure, maybe later down the road, I could go up to Calgary and Edmonton as we have more people that we meet. So it's really exciting that your network can provide a lot of power in your life.
Yes, definitely. I'll go to Les and then Shay and then Miguel. So Les, you've been quite involved with real estate investing over the past year, and you have a couple of properties now. Love to hear what new possibilities or new doors have been opened to you through real estate investing.
Yeah, I mean, so everything that everybody's mentioned is great, and I totally identify with that as well. I mean, sure, everybody's heard the phrase your network is your net worth, right? But so the network portion is a big part of it, right? So I've been able to meet a lot of real estate investors, not only in Alberta here, but all throughout Canada, and now the US as well, and working on some things there, right? And some interesting opportunities that are coming up potentially. But the thing that I'm more excited about, so for me, it's what I'm trying to accomplish isn't really about me. It's about maybe what I can provide for my family down the line, right? So, Richard, just like you, my parents, I mean, I was born in another country, in Ghana, and I very much respect the opportunities that I have here in Canada, right? And being able to, so I don't have any children, but being able to build a platform or build, that next rung up where my nephews and generations that come after that potentially, their life can be a little bit easier, just like mine was, because of everything my parents did, right? And the education they got and the risks they took in order to come here and to be successful in Canada. And then the other thing that I've really enjoyed is just exploring different skill sets. So whenever somebody tells you that real estate investing is passive, it really isn't. It can be a lot of work. I mean, I guess it depends on how you invest in real estate, but it can definitely be a lot of work. So I've done a lot of general contracting in the past little while, explored different skill sets, property management, hospitality, system building, like what I'm doing right now with trying to set up some Airbnbs. That's been a really fun thing, and trying to build experiences for people and stuff like that. But there's just a lot that comes through the experience, apart from just that financial piece. But those are some of the things that the opportunities that have come my way anyway.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing or shedding light on all these other aspects too, of connecting with people, being able to create this generational wealth to support your family and not just about you. And so, yeah, it's wonderful. Shay, how about you? What new possibilities have been opened up to you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the possibilities in the new possibilities in the future, right? Like nothing has directly changed in the last 6 months. Like Leslie says, it's a lot of work, right? You can't just expect to be successful tomorrow. But it is just like that aspect of, I can focus on directly what I enjoy doing, and then that can lead to me making money, right? So making money through the exact thing that I love doing every day, right? So long as I can keep working that towards to the point where I don't have to bartend anymore, and to be free and allow me that freedom of time and freedom of money, would be just enormous, right? To be able to work from home or work from somewhere else and not have to be like locked into, I have to start at 5 p.m. and go till midnight, right? Or whatever. But it is huge. And the new possibilities just of meeting the right people, right? So maybe if I meet Leslie and I find out more about marketing, maybe that changes my outlook, and I don't directly want to use real estate investing, but I can go into that field if I wanted to, right? That comes with connections and the people that you meet, right? All these entrepreneurs and business-minded people. It's very valuable, very, very valuable.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could also touch a bit upon who, not how, because that might be it applies in real estate investing in other parts of people's lives and might be a good book recommendation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Who Not How, the book written by Dan Sullivan. It was the book that was like a required reading when I started the applied study with the 100 Properties. And it was one of those things that I with me looking at other jobs in real estate, like mortgage broker and among others, I realized that every job I've ever gotten throughout my entire life has been who I knew, not what I knew, right? I didn't ever had to struggle through that like a application process and throwing myself out there and just waiting to get a call back. I always just had somebody I knew that had some availability. Like I started when I was 16, I started roofing because my stepdad was a roofer. So it was just like an easy, I mean, roofing, the requirements for roofing, anyone can do it. There's no like degree or nothing. It doesn't take a super genius to be able to get it. But you know, that was my first job. And I worked my ass off every summer in high school. And then even into a little bit into university, made a ton of money, enough so that I didn't have to work during the school seasons. And it was super valuable and allowed me to go a long way, right?
Mhm.
And then the other thing with like agility, for example, I knew the director of agility and the director of the teaching center more aptly. And he had an opportunity that he could give it, that he was like, hey, Shay, you're a student, you can apply to this co-op position. And if you get it, that'd be sweet. So this who, not how process, when I was given that book, I was like, man, this is exactly what I've been thinking this whole time. And now here, Eric is showing me it and being like, this is the focus. You find people to solve the problems for you or to help you solve the problems rather than you just having to like reinvent the wheel every step of the way. It's huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
I really love the book and it's an easy read. So
Yes,
everyone
definitely.
should try to read it.
Yes. Leslie also mentioned that there's an audiobook version as well for folks that prefer audio than reading a physical or digital book. And then, yeah, for Miguel, one aspect I wanted to highlight is like you've mentioned to me before, you're from Colombia and that through real estate investing, becoming financially free, you also want to help other people. It's not just for yourself. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that and how real estate investing has opened new doors for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say like one of the biggest new opportunities that I had just learning through real estate and all these trainings is that just the way you think, like your mindset, right? Because before I had like this scarcity mindset, right? Like with fear, like, oh, I don't have enough money, right? Like, oh, real estate is too hard, too complex, right? But then once you're actually start like understanding, there's like basic principles, right? That if you follow them, right, you're gonna be successful. So changing from that scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, like that was so great. And another thing I wanted to share was following up with that what Shay was saying is that the principle of who, not how, right? That's another principle that it's like mind blowing, right? Like we all should be learning this from a young age, but it's never too late. So essentially what this principle says, right, it's like everybody has unique strengths and weaknesses, right? Like I wish I was good at everything, but reality is that I'm not, right? So with real estate or for anything that you're going to do in life, right, it is so much easier if you build a team around everybody's strengths, right? So on what's cool about real estate is that if you decide to learn more about it, it's that like you realize that like it's not all about you, right? Like you need to create a team, right? You need to create different systems and structures, right? If you want to be like successful, right? So yeah, so the importance of building like teams, and another possibility, like Leslie was mentioning, Shay was mentioning it, when Harrison was mentioning it, is that through real estate, like you get to meet like other like-minded people, right? And that's huge because like I don't know about when you look at your network, your network around you, that's pretty much what is the quote? It's like a quote like your life is based around the 5 people closest to you, right? Something like that. I'm butchering it, but like that's the same principle. And essentially, right, if you gather around, like-minded people, right, you're gonna be more successful because you're gonna learn. If you start hanging out with people who are like, way ahead of you, you're gonna learn how they did it, right? And what's cool is that they're gonna help you, right, cut the learning curve, right? So the concept of, connections, new partnerships, right? And also one of the possibilities that, I learned through real estate is that anybody can be successful, right, if you put in the work, right? And you study hard. So yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. I believe the quote is, you are the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's something I've been coincidentally reflecting a lot upon too. Because if you're around 5 successful entrepreneurs or around 5 successful real estate investors, it's likely you're going to become the 6th, just because of all the knowledge and mentorship that they pass on. So I'm gonna, for sake of time, I'm going to transition to having some Q&A. And I did see that Eric Rodvang posted a question. Hello, Eric, by the way. I realize I know multiple Erics, but I'll bring up Eric's question. And then for other folks that have a question as well, you can either use the raise hands button in the reactions tab, and I can call on you and you can ask verbally, or you can also type your question into the chat. So Eric had asked, other than buying an entire property, how else do you invest in real estate? Maybe he missed that at the start and because he joined a bit late. I'm wondering, I'll pass it off to Les. I feel like you might be the most equipped to answer this question.
Sure. Yeah. So apart from owning an entire property, the easiest other way to invest in, well, maybe not the easiest, but one other way to invest in real estate is through partnerships, right? So, there's lots of real estate partnerships where somebody is the financial backer and then one is the working partner. And so the working partner finds the deal, manages the project, and then the financial partner finances things, for example, and there's a split there, however they do that. So that's one way to invest in real estate. Outside of actually owning the outright the asset, I suppose you could invest in like a REIT, right? Like a real estate trust or real estate investment groups. The other thing, part of what I had talked about earlier too, was what's called arbitrage, rental arbitrage, which is where you rent a property, then rent it out for more than it's renting for. It's also a popular thing with Airbnbs, Airbnb arbitrage, where you go to somebody with a rental property, you go, hey, I'd like to turn your rental property to an Airbnb. You don't have to do anything. I'll pay you rent every month, and then you furnish the place and manage the Airbnb property. But I do know there are some cool online platforms that provide crowdfunding for real estate projects, and that's another way where if you wanted to invest in real estate, you could do it that way as well. So there's a few ways there.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks for sharing those few different options. One other thing I'll bring up as well is in the realm of private lending. So for a lot of these projects, they require capital, they require money for renovating or for other things. And so one thing that's possible as well, that you can private lend to someone that's doing one of these projects, like say you're lending $10,000 for the next 6 months, and then you can earn some interest back on that as well. So that's another way you can earn through real estate investing without directly buying a whole property.
Hey, Richard, I just wanted to chime in really quick.
Yeah.
That's okay. Another way that it's not commonly like talked about, but you're actually part owner of real estate. It's through what's called like REITs. So it's called real estate investment trust, right? So essentially, it's kind of like a stock, right? So the REITs are companies that they own like multiple houses. They have properties, right? There is different kinds, right? There is commercial. There is people who own buildings, like companies of buildings, hospitals, right? And essentially, it's like when you buy into the company, right, through the like shares, you're essentially buying into like just like a little piece of these properties, right? And every month, you're getting back dividends, right? Which is essentially what they do. It's like they collect the rent, or the profit of the rent, is distributed among the shareholders as a dividend, right? Depending on the company, they do it either every month or every quarter, right? So that's like another way, it's like more, passively, right? just kind of like owning, and getting involved with real estate without actually, having to buy a whole house. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that option as well. I'm gonna give a few moments to see if there's any other people that have questions. So again, you can type into the chat or you can use the raise hands feature because we have a panel of experts in their own rights. So we'd love to be able to share knowledge that's valuable. So if you have any burning questions or even something that you're just mildly curious about, there's no right or there's no dumb questions. Okay, I see something in the chat. So Christian said, I'm a college student and have always wanted to get into real estate. If you were a college student again, what would be your step-by-step plan to getting your first property? I'll look over to the panelists. If you raise your hand, I'll pass it off to you to answer the question. I see you've unmuted, Les. Do you want to take the question?
Well,
I mean, you've been through college or university.
I just thought maybe one of these guys that actually have built out a plan for this right now might be better suited to answer, but I'll throw something out there.
Go
How about
ahead.
you start, Les?
I'll talk afterwards.
Yeah, and then Shay can jump on after.
Yeah, I don't know what my step-by-step plan would be. I mean, so for me, when my starting point with real estate investment had a pretty decent amount of capital ready to go, but my first project I still needed to come up with 150 grand plus another 30 grand on renovations, right? So that would not have worked for me in college. There was no way that was going to happen in any way, shape, or form. But I think the big thing would be to some of the steps I took before getting into real estate investing, which is to kind of make a decision that that's what I want to do, then educate myself on what the opportunity is and how I can get into it. And then for me, how I would approach it is I would actually look for somebody that I can partner with once I understand. So if we're talking hypothetically about the BURP method, which is what primarily 100 Properties teaches about, which is to buy, renovate, rent, and refinance. So if we're talking about that, then I would look for somebody who has a lot of capital, very little time, and then I would offer my services to them, and then take whatever stake I can get in a property to help them do a project. And then once that would be successful, gain their trust, ask for more responsibility, and then increase that stake. And then, when those properties sell, I can capitalize on that. So that's maybe how I would start, is to educate myself. Well, first make the decision, educate myself, then find somebody I can partner with.
Nice. You ended up giving a step-by-step plan anyway. So fantastic. Shay, and then I see there's a question from Krista that we'll go to next.
So yeah, I'm currently in that exact situation that Christian is saying. Like, so I was just last fall a university student. So I mean, I'm literally coming out of it just now, where I'm starting to build my income so that I can get to that point where I can buy a house properly and then do that. And the things that I'm doing personally are like small things, like making sure I'm investing a little bit, even in just like stocks and different things, so that my money is not just sitting there doing nothing. Another one is I'm just really focusing to live below my means, saving money, right? So that I can have that kind of finance. And then I really love what Leslie said with that. Just try to get that situation, like me working with 100 Properties and like getting immersed into that field, start learning, start teaching yourself these small things. There's a billion podcasts and a billion different things on real estate that you can learn from, that can get you to that point where when you get to that point where you're ready, or you have the connections like Leslie with like private lenders and stuff, then you are comfortable with each step after that. And then you can it'll just start to blow up faster and faster. Like just take your time and learn as much as possible, right?
Yeah, wonderful.
And then I just want to quickly share something.
Sure.
So yeah, just like to keep it brief and short, if I was in, starting college again, I wanted to get involved in real estate or buy my first property. The first thing like I would ask myself is to like decide why I want to own a property, right? Like really figure out why. Because most of the times, you can find the how, you can find the who, but what's gonna set, investors apart is like why, like the reason why you want it, right? Like it might be, I wanna be financially successful, I wanna help my mom, I wanna leave something for my kids, right? Wherever it is that may be, right? Like that's where I would start, right? Just finding out that, because once you find out why, it's gonna help you to, when you're feeling down, you're like, oh man, nothing's working, this is not for me. If you go back to your why, it's gonna help you to give you like that drive, right? And it's gonna help you like to push you forward, right? And then the second thing I will do, it's like I will actually find a who, right? So I would actually find a mentor or someone that has already achieved whatever it is that you want, right? The exact thing that you want, the exact result that you want, right? I will like, talk to them, and see if they can mentor you or if they can help you out, right? Because they're gonna help you cut down the learning curve, right? They're gonna help you avoid mistakes, and they're gonna help you save money over time, right? And lastly, just like stick with it, right? Because, like Shay was saying, there is tons of information out there, right? So you don't want to get overload of information, right? Because what's gonna happen is that you're not gonna end up doing anything, right? And I just like to quote another one of my mentors. What he said to me once is like, complexity is the enemy of execution, right? So if you have all these things going on, right, you get overloaded and then you're like, oh, what am I gonna do, right? And then you end up doing nothing, right? So yeah, just to recap, decide what you want to do it, find out a who's gonna help you achieve what you want. And lastly, just stick with it.
Yeah, wonderful. So Christian, you now have 3 different frameworks and steps you you could take. To be mindful of time, I think we can still take Carissa's question. And then for Eric, if you want, you could stay behind after we officially end our program at 7. Yeah, because I don't want to keep everyone behind, and I still want to try to end on time. But for Carissa's question, is there one panelist that would want to address that? So Carissa said, what are some of the most common struggles you faced, both as a beginner and an experienced real estate investor?
I'll let Harrison speak if he wants to, but I just wanted to say, just directly tagging it on from Miguel's little speech is, it might sound a little cheesy, but it's 100% like mindset, right? Where you, as an investor, you're guaranteed to have a little bit of risk, and that risk can be really scary and what holds you back from taking action, right? It's the biggest thing that all these guys, that all 3 of us for sure, and then Leslie, I'm sure you met them before, but this mindset focus of taking action is the biggest problem that every one of us faces as we go. It's just take that first step towards whatever it is where you have to do. Mindset changes hugely whether or not you're successful or not. So
yeah, just to add on to what Shay has said, like we meet together every week and we have a little call together where we like share what we've been learning and how we're going to move forward. And yeah, for like the first month, we were just like battling with believing in ourselves. And I think what Miguel said was really well stated, that we needed to figure out our why and really carve that out. And then once we knew that and we believed in what we were doing, it made it a lot easier.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna segue to some closing remarks then. Well, first of all, thank you to all the panels. I'm gonna give you jazz hands for all your wonderful insights. And I see Les is answering some of the questions in the chat as well. So thank you for that. So we'll summarize a few things and tell you about an upcoming opportunity. So I think from everyone's perspective, or sharing all their insights today, that there's nothing inherently wrong with this 9-to-5 path, but then there's also this opportunity with real estate investing that can give you more choice and freedom. And you can build up your residual income and wealth now. It's just adding more tools to your toolkit when you're more financially literate, and knowing that there's these different options that are available and accessible to you. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's an upcoming opportunity. So if after attending this panel, you felt like, okay, I want to learn more. I do want to have a mentor. I do want to know this process and have a confident mindset to approach this. We are hosting an upcoming real estate investing boot camp. It's a 3-day thing online. And everyone here has actually attended or has participated and taught in it as well. So it's designed to be hands-on, very practical. So we can actually walk you through step by step how Eric and how Les and how the rest of us have done this real estate investing process. And yeah, you can be part of this mission of like the 100 people that can become financially independent through real estate investing. So again, this is on May 5th to 7th. So this is just over 3 weeks from now. So if there's anyone that's interested, the next step would be to just book an informational call. So there's no commitment. So it's just if you have any questions to bring, and we can tell you more details about what the boot camp is like. So I'll post that into the chat. So if you have nothing to lose, really, like if you choose not to sign up, you'll still get an informative chat where you can get your questions answered. So you'll be living with more financial literacy and clarity. Yeah. And if you have any additional questions, you'd be doing a call with Eric Chang, and he'd be the expert with this. So as I mentioned before, I will be officially concluding the program, but if folks want to stay behind, and if panelists, you can stay behind for a bit, we can do some informal chatting or answering any other questions that folks might have, because we don't want to just leave you hanging. But just some concluding remarks. Thank you again to all the panelists and attendees that came out to support today. I know our panelists have been inviting lots of folks. So if you know some of the panelists and you came to support them, or you're just interested, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, we wish you a great rest of your evening. Hopefully this panel was insightful and you feel inspired from it. So I'm gonna jazz hands people out as well.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.